uso wako, pua, mdomo au macho. Ili kusaidia kuzuia kuenea kwa virusi hivi, sote tunahitajika kufanya mambo matano. 1. Fuata hatua hizi: kuosha mikono yako mara kwa mara na sabuni na maji kwa angalau sekunde 40. 2. Funika mdomo wako na kiwiko wakati wote unapokohoa au kupiga chafya. 3. Usishike uso wako. 4. Epuka sehemu zenye watu wengi. Weka umbali salama baina yako na wenzako. 5. Kaa nyumbani ukiweza, hasa ikiwa una dalili zozote za ugonjwa. Kwa maelezo zaidi tembelea www.who.int.
Yo, remember, ukitaka kustay safe from coronavirus, lazima ufuate hizi steps. 1. Osha mikono kila time for 20 seconds, hata unaweza imba happy birthday mara 2. 2. Usishike uso, macho na mapua yako, especially kama hujaosha mikono. 3. Ukitaka kucough, utumie tissue alafu utupe kwa dustbin ama ucough kwa elbow. 4. Avoid kuenda mahali kuna watu wengi ama kusalimia mtu na kuhug mtu. In case usikie uko mgonjwa, please ambia parents wako ama guardians wako. Let's all stay safe.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
I'd be very careful the way you address me, given that I literally have your life in my palm.
People lose hands and palms every day.
Be careful you don't get yourself in that list.
People, why can't you give Solomon a chance to speak out? You talk like angry monkeys. And you, when are you ever going to learn to listen?
Okay. If you know you took my juice, it is not that expensive. It is only 10 bob.
Why is this Angela face laughing?
Don't mind her, to tell us the good news, Murume, you know some of us need something to cheer us up.
Classmates, every Saturday on KBC.
Welcome back. Now, on environmental matters of victims of Monday's landslide that claimed 12 people will receive compensation from the government. According to Kericho Governor Paul Chepkwony, the plans are also underway to relocate families living in mudslide and flood-prone areas in a bid to avert further disasters. The revelation coming at a time the national government flagged off relief food to the affected.
The rainy season is here yet again, and the familiar tale of destruction and death has reared its ugly head. But this time it appears both the national and county governments have moved hastily in responding to the tragedy and the victims.
We already have harmonized our disaster risk management legislation and policy framework. These will see the counties and the national government working together seamlessly because of the institutional framework that we have put in place. We'll also have enough funding directed towards these emergencies.
The government on Wednesday flagging off relief food to affected areas. Leading the initiative, Devolution Cabinet Secretary Eugene Wamalwa, however, urged the county government to set aside resources to respond to disasters.
We have had counties saying, no, the problem of drought is only in northern Kenya. But if you don't have drought, tomorrow you'll have floods. If you don't have floods, tomorrow you'll have locusts. Now, we must all be prepared in terms of resources, in terms of the necessary infrastructure to be able to build resilience to deal with these disasters now and in the future.
Wamalwa spoke as the county government of Kericho disclosed plans to compensate victims of Monday's landslides in Kipkelion West Sub-County, which has resulted to 12 deaths so far. Speaking during a donation of foodstuff and other non-food items to victims at Nyansakye in Kamasian Ward, where 2 lives were lost to landslides, Governor Paul Chepkwony said the county government will construct new houses for the victims and compensate loss of crops and animals buried during the landslide.
We'll make arrangements to relocate the families who are in prone areas because it is not sustainable that year in, year out, they're experiencing landslides, and we have to keep doing something about it all the time. And when we do that, we'll encourage people to grow trees.
In Trans Nzoia County, more than 2,000 residents of Namanjalala location in Kwanza constituency are up in arms over a Chinese construction company which they blame for worsening flooding in the area. The construction company, which is laying bitumen in Maili Kumi na Moja Road, is on the receiving end for allegedly demolishing a flooding barrier along Sabwani River Bridge, resulting to displacements.
Wajenzi wamepomoa ukuta ambao ilikuwa inasuiliwa na maji kuingia kwa mapoma ya watu. Hata sasa watu wanalala barabarani. Vyakula vyote vimefunikwa na maji. Sasa hatuna vile tunaweza kusaidiwa, watoto kulala ni shida. Mama pia hata penye wanapata chakula ni shida.
And finally, the largest retail market in Gilgil town is staring at possible closure after it was flooded, paralyzing operations. Traders operating in the market express fears of a disease outbreak due to the ongoing rains and collapsed drainage system in the town. Caroline Kamau reporting for Channel 1 News.
Now, glowing tributes characterize the burial of renowned Kiswahili author Professor Ken Walibora, who was laid to rest Thursday at his Makutano home in Cherangani constituency in Trans Nzoia County. The late author was eulogized as a great scholar with a great mind whose scholarly work will forever inspire future generations. On Wednesday, friends and family of the late renowned Kiswahili author Professor Ken Walibora gathered at Makutano Cherangani constituency in Trans Nzoia County to bid him farewell. His body was airlifted from Nairobi upon arrival. The Jehovah's Witness Church commenced the burial rites whose attendance had been limited owing to social distancing guidelines. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the number of mourners who attended the burial was limited to 15 as per the Ministry of Health guidelines, which are aimed at curbing the spread of coronavirus. Among those who attended the 47-minute funeral service were majorly his extended family members, neighbors and scholars. His widow and 2 children were, however, absent as they could not leave the US due to travel bans over COVID-19 pandemic. Glowing tributes being paid to a man who worked at KBC as a translator and news anchor before moving to Nation Media Group, and who is also credited with authoring popular books, among them Siku Njema, Kufa Kuzikana na Nasikia Sauti ya Mama.
Alikuwa mtu mkarimu, mtu aliyehudumia watu aina zote, wakubwa kwa wadogo. Ikuwa mtu wenye unyenyekevu. Hungelijua ni mtu wa hadhi kubwa kama hiyo alipokuwa akichangamana na watoto, akicheza ule mpira wetu wa kienyeji naitwa lifundo.
The late Walibora was eulogized by his counterparts as a great scholar with a great mind whose scholarly work will forever remain ideal for generations.
Ken Walibora ametoa michango mikubwa mno, hasa katika taaluma ya Kiswahili na fasihi yake.
Umempoteza msomi wa hadhi yake, na tuseme kwamba yapo mengi sana alitarajia kuyafanya, na katika umri wake 50 na nafikiri bado alikuwa mbichi katika uwanja huu. Kwa hivyo ni hasara kubwa sana kwa jumuiya ya wasomi na hasa Kiswahili.
His family called on authorities to speed up investigations to establish cause of death following an autopsy that revealed he suffered stab wounds.
Lile litakalokuja tutashukuru kujua kile kilichompata ndugu yetu.
Safiri salama, msalimu Maulana, tutaonana baadaye. Safiri salama, msalimu Maulana, tutaonana baadaye.
Well, may his soul rest in peace. Now, moving on, as the effects of the COVID-19 global pandemic continues to bite, many Kenyans are bearing the brunt after losing their jobs and many businesses closing down. Sophia Chieng visited the family of Diana Ombete, a single mother living in the city's Kibra slums, who is now left struggling to make ends meet in an environment where young girls are easily lured into immoral acts as a survival tactic.
The impact of the COVID-19 outbreak continues to bite, with vulnerable populations now faced with the harsh reality of struggling to make ends meet, all courtesy of the economic downturn caused by the global pandemic. Such is the predicament of Diana Ombete Musembi, a resident of Kibra slums in Nairobi. She hails from a family of 5, all raised by their single mother in this 2-roomed house. At 21 years of age, Diana is already a mother, forced to raise her baby alone after the father of her 5-month-old son jilted her.
Babake ashughuliki. Unajua pia ukalazimisha mtu. Ya ukimuuliza kitu fulani anakataa ama anakuambia atakutumia kisha atumi. Maisha ya kumlea kukaa kama mzazi mmoja ni magumu sana.
Hers is a story of broken dreams, a narrative shared by many girls across Kibra who come from poverty-stricken families.
So most of these girls end up getting into what we call transactional sex relationships, and the whole idea is to get some extra income to be able to meet their needs. And of course, what normally happens, they end up becoming pregnant. Once they're pregnant, they drop out of school.
Faced with the burden of parenthood, many girls like Diana have been forced to take odd jobs to earn a living. But the outbreak of coronavirus, however, has spelled doom for these girls, with many losing their jobs. Diana was a sales lady at one of the malls in Nairobi's central business district, but she is now jobless after her employer closed shop. As she tries to cope with the new normal, she wonders how she will meet her obligations in the coming days.
Affect sana kwa mwanzo siwezi nikaprovidea mtoto wangu cause namlea kama single parent. Siwezi nikapata pesa kumnunulia diaper, kumnunulia nguo, alafu pia kumnunulia chakula. Mimi mwenyewe pia kujitegemea. So it's that hard.
Life is hard, she tells me. At times even eating becomes a luxury.
It's that hard. Because tuseme unaweza pata 1 meal at a day. Hiyo kwa siku moja unapata mlo mmoja, malisha moja. Si kama hapo nyuma. Cause kama mamangu haendi kazi, wote tuko tu nyumbani.
Nancy Okoth from Plan International says that the situation could worsen for these girls, as some are now being lured into immoral acts as a survival tactic.
These are some of the things that the girls have experienced, and this one has ensured that they are not able to have any income. And in turn, most of the girls have started engaging in some commercial sex work so that they're able to maintain or get their daily bread. And then we are foreseeing this to be able to bring maybe early pregnancies and even early marriages.
The organization is partnering with other key players to assist girls from vulnerable families. They are also calling on the government to focus on cushioning such vulnerable populations from the adverse effects of COVID-19.
Really, the measures the government has put in place, they could be working elsewhere, but in the context of Kibera, a lot of support is needed, because if we don't give them food, these people don't see the need to stay back at home.
Until that happens, single mothers like Diana can only hope for better days ahead, with her son remaining her only source of strength as she soldiers on.
Nikiona ni give up, ile naona mtoto ananitegemea, mamangu ndo anani-encourage na ananiambia all will be well. So mimi nasema tu ni alafu pia mimi mwenyewe naji-encourage, naji-motivate, nasema it will be well.
We are in Kisumu Ndogo area in Kibra, one of the largest slums in Africa. For majority of residents in this area, it is a challenge to get their daily must-haves such as food, a situation that has been worsened by the outbreak of coronavirus. They are hoping that this outbreak will come to pass and their lives return to normalcy. For Channel 1 News, I'm Safin Acheng Ouma.
Well, thank you so much, Safin, for that report. Now, let's shift gears where the United Nations is warning that global hunger could double as a result of coronavirus pandemic, putting 265 million people at risk. The warning coming as the number of those infected by COVID-19 across the globe rose to over 2.6 million people, with at least 712 people having recovered from the illness, according to Johns Hopkins University. Now, the United States accounts for about a quarter of all the deaths, with over 46,000 deaths recorded so far. Emily K. Bade brings us the details.
The United Nations World Food Programme has warned that the world is at risk of widespread famines of biblical proportions over the virus. A new WFP report estimates that the number suffering from hunger could go from 135 million to over 250 million. The development coming as United States President Donald Trump said he would sign an executive order later on Wednesday prohibiting immigration that he has said would protect U.S. workers amid the economic fallout from the coronavirus outbreak. This comes as the coronavirus death toll in the U.S. climbed by 2,751 in the past 24 hours, bringing the total to over 45,300. In Europe, the Spanish government has made a U-turn on its updated restriction for children and will now allow them out for walks after 6 weeks of confinement starting this Sunday. Spain is planning on winding down the coronavirus lockdown measures in the second half of May. Meanwhile, the first clinical trial for a COVID-19 vaccine has been approved in Germany, according to the country's Federal Institute for Vaccine and Biomedical Drugs. Another human vaccine trial is set to get underway at Oxford University in the United Kingdom on Thursday, according to the British Health Secretary. In Asia, there has been a virus cluster in a Japanese care home for infants, with 8 children testing positive. They had been tested after one staff member was confirmed positive. In South Korea, the country reported 11 new cases for the 4th day in a row, where the number has been below 15. Meanwhile, in Africa, this year's Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting scheduled to be held in Rwanda has been postponed due to the pandemic. More than 10,000 delegates, including the UK Prime Minister and Prince of Wales, were expected to attend the 26th summit in the capital, Kigali, in 2 months' time. Elsewhere, Lesotho Prime Minister has extended the nationwide lockdown by 2 weeks to prevent coronavirus infections. The country that is yet to record any coronavirus case has been on lockdown for 3 weeks. And scores of government officials, including 89 police officers, have been arrested for flouting South Africa's coronavirus regulation, many of them for selling confiscated liquor. For Channel 1 News, I am Emily K. Bade.
Now, as the world continues to navigate through the rapidly evolving coronavirus pandemic, children remain on edge as health systems buckle, borders close, and schools and businesses close. And amid the uncertainty, how do you protect the welfare of children who are at least able to cope with the pandemic that could have potential catastrophic consequences for vulnerable populations?
We are encouraging children to stay at home, not to go around visiting their friends, not to have their friends coming into their houses. And we've heard a lot about hand washing. This is the best time when you're with your children at home to teach them the ways to keep washing hands. And we know also how to protect these children when they're at home. As a mother, you know you'll have to go to the market to get some vegetables, to get some food to eat. And these are sites of transmission of the virus. So we are asking the mothers also, protect your children when you come home. There are some surfaces, the way the virus is transmitted, either through aerosols. So even as you go out to the market to get food, you need to put on your mask. And if everyone else around is also having a mask, there is less aerosols in the air that can transmit this virus. Another thing, we also know the virus is transmitted through fomites. Fomites are just anything that can hold a virus, like a pen, a piece of paper, cardboard. Even the shopping bag that you carry is a fomite, where it's an avenue of transmission of the virus. So we are asking you, as you go and do your shopping, you make sure that you practice hand washing. When you come home with your shopping, just take a piece of cloth with some soap and water, clean whatever you have bought before you put it into your house. Clean also your shopping bag. When you come from outside, you take off the clothes that you had gone to shop with, soak them and wash them with soap and water. Go and have a shower. If you have hair, long hair, you need to wash your hair as well, because hair can also carry the virus.
Now, on a separate matter, as the world marks the 50th anniversary of Earth Day, most people across the globe remain concerned that over the impact of climate change. A research conducted in 14 countries by Ipsos Group indicates that 71% of those polled globally agree that climate change is as serious a crisis just as COVID-19 outbreak. The revelations coming as United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres challenged world leaders to put in place climate actions on mitigation, adaptation and finance measures in efforts aimed at cushioning the globe amid the coronavirus pandemic. As countries around the globe strive to combat COVID-19 disease, a poll conducted by Ipsos Research Group has moved to amplify the challenge posed by climate change. The poll conducted between April 16 to 19 this year in 14 countries indicate that 71% of those polled agree that in the long term, climate change is as serious a crisis as COVID-19. The survey shows widespread support for government actions to prioritize climate change, with 68% globally saying their governments will be failing them if they don't act now to combat climate change. 65% of those polled support a green economic recovery for the COVID-19 crisis. Another Ipsos survey conducted online among over 20,000 adults across 29 countries between February 21st and March 6, 2020 finds that while climate change remains the most important environmental issue for citizens globally, citizens are more likely to say they plan to make changes to their own environmental behaviors than they were 6 years ago. The findings indicate that the climate change remains the most important environmental issue globally, with 37% citing it as one of their top environmental issues, followed by air pollution at 33%, waste management at 32%, deforestation at 26% and water pollution at 25%. The revelations coming as United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres calling on world nations to put in place ambitious climate actions on mitigation, adaptation and finance measures in efforts committed to building back from the COVID-19 pandemic. According to Guterres, there is need to use the recovery from the effects of COVID-19 to secure a more sustainable and resilient future so as to build a healthy and resilient future for the people and the planet. This year, the 50th anniversary of the first Earth Day has encountered a new normal, with a global pandemic changing the way we live across the world. Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Jackie Wambiru. That report brings us to a short break. Don't go too far, still more to come.
Dad has not been feeling well for a long time. He has become so weak, we can't play together.
Why are you refusing to go to the hospital? I told you there is no way you'll know if it is TB or not if you do not go and get tested. If by any chance you find out that you have TB, you'll get the treatment for free from any hospital. All the tests are free. All the medications are free. Are you waiting to infect your family so that you can go to the hospital?
Don't wait till it's too late. TB is preventable, treatable, and curable.
What is your end goal here?
Nothing, sis.
Sis, excuse me.
What? Awachana na mimi.
Why did you look for a molo? I believe in a strong family setup.
Nini mbaya?
Kuna shida madam. Amepiga simu nyingine.
I'm already late for work.
The company you're working for is my company. And you've got permission to be late.
Really? Because I thought I answered to a totally different person.
You can
Put in your number there.
Cool.
I'll text you the location.
But don't tell Nancy.
And welcome back. Now let's continue with our coverage where the National Assembly has adopted the Tax Laws Amendment Bill that will offer employees earning less than 24,000 shillings 100% tax relief, while those earning above the amount will pay a maximum of 25%, down from the current 30%. Now, adopting the President's proposed economic stimulus occasioned by the coronavirus pandemic, legislators, however, called for enhanced measures to cushion vulnerable Kenyans who are not formally employed. The new tax measures are also aimed at cushioning the economy, as companies will enjoy a reduction of corporate tax from the current 30 to 25%.
Kenyans earning less than 24,000 shillings will not be paying taxes, while those earning more than this will pay a maximum of 25%, down from the current 30%.
Proceed, Chairperson.
This is after National Assembly adopted the Tax Laws Amendment Bill that also gives companies a reduction of corporate tax from 30% to 25%. Debating the President's economic stimulus package that aims at cushioning Kenyans from job losses and at the same time protect the economy, MPs also expressed the need to provide basic commodities for vulnerable populations.
Whereas presently we have the minimum at 10%, that is going to move to 50%, and then the maximum is going to be reduced from 30% to 25%. Mr. Speaker, this largely is going to help those who are to put money into the pockets of Kenyans, but only those who are in the formal employment. Mr. Speaker, that is a caveat. And then we are aware that very few of us, very few Kenyans are in formal employment, and therefore those who are going to benefit are largely not so much, Mr. Speaker, but it is going to improve their purchasing power.
We must agree that bread must be zero rated. You cannot put bread and chocolate on the same side, because how many Kenyans actually consumed chocolate?
My understanding of how to deal with a situation where we are is that we would seek to get whatever we can get from people who are in employment and earning to help those who are either out of employment or vulnerable. They have nothing at all.
The micro, small and medium enterprises will enjoy a reduction of controversial turnover tax, also known as patriotism tax, from the current 3% to 1%, meaning that small businesses will now pay 1 shilling for every 100 shillings they make in gross sales.
So let us do the balance between the two. Save the economy, save the employer, and save the ordinary employee. But just coming up and then going through with whatever the executive wants, and then we just come and then just pass through, or rubber stamp for that matter. Let's remind ourselves that we are members of parliament representing the ordinary Kenyans.
We must use our emergency fund in the CDF. Our women reps should use the emergency fund. We must look for those very vulnerable members of our society and give them whatever.
The Kenya Revenue Authority had earlier stated that the proposals will not take effect, advising employers to continue making deductions based on previous arrangements. The taxman had, however, said it would issue backdated refunds once the bill was assented into law by the President. Meanwhile, the controversial transfer of functions from the Nairobi County Government to the national government found its way in the House. The matter would be at the heart of the debate as MPs considered adoption of the Senate's amendment to the Division of Revenue Bill that will ensure resources allocated to Nairobi City County follow functions that were surrendered by Governor Mike Sonko to Nairobi Metropolitan Services. Adopting Senate's agenda The MPs, however, called for transparency in operations of Nairobi's Metropolitan Services. Nairobi Governor Mike Sonko had threatened to institute termination of deed of transfer of functions that saw forking functions surrendered to the newly established Nairobi Metropolitan Services, citing frustrations in the implementation of the deal. Kevin Washira, Channel 1 News.
Now let's shift gears from Parliament, and the government has ordered those holding illegal guns in Transmara sub-county to hand them over to authorities within 2 days or face undisclosed action. Now, the region has witnessed bloody confrontations pitting two rival clans fighting over a common boundary.
In the wake of increased hostilities between members of the Uasin Gishu and Syria clans, security operatives and political leaders drawn from Narok County will on Wednesday hold a meeting in the area. The meeting, which brought together 10 elders from each rival clans as well as regional leaders and security agents, will make radical proposals. Narok County Commissioner Samuel Kimiti issuing a 48-hour ultimatum to residents of Nkarao in Transmara to return all illegal firearms.
Kwa sababu kuna wengine walikuwa wameenda kutafuta budoki na wako nafu. Kufikia Friday walete hizo budoki zote kwa serikali. Sasa wachaleta budoki, hiyo ndio itakuwa inchara ya kuonyesha ya kwamba wamekubali kuweka amani, na wakuweka amani wakati hiyo serikali itafikiria kuondoa hii curfew, hasa hii ya saa 10. Hiyo itategemea kuweka amani na kurudisha budoki.
Narok Governor Samuel Tunai urging the two rival clans to embrace peace and choose to work in harmony, sentiments echoed by the area legislator Gideon Konchela.
Tunataka wao wenyewe wakiwa jamii hizo mbili wakubali amani itoke kwao wenyewe, ndio serikali iwe tu inakuja kusahihisha, lakini wao wenyewe wawe wamekubali ya kwamba hiyo vita haitarudi tena.
Pale ambao watu walikuwa wanazozana, saa hii hakuna mzozo kama hiyo tena itatokea, na serikali itaamua na itatatua yale ambayo yamebaki ama yale ambayo ilikuwa inaanzisha hii shida ambayo jamii hapa walikuwa wanaekwa.
Public Service Commission Chairperson Stephen Kirogo says Kenyans can expect a new Auditor General by mid-May. Kirogo says the development will help address the backlog being witnessed by the Parliamentary Public Accounts Committee. Details of these and other highlights in the County News Roundup.
Speaking at the Public Service Commission headquarters during the official launch of the selection panel for the selection of nominees for the appointment of the Auditor General, Kirogo said 2 previous attempts to fill the vacant position have failed to produce a candidate. Kirogo says a total of 64 applicants have expressed interest in the vacant position, adding that the appointment of a substantive Auditor General will go a long way in taking care of the backlog in government financial reports, which affect even the business community. And in Kajiado, Governor Joseph Ole Lenku says about 30% of Kajiado County residents are on the brink of starvation and require immediate intervention. Lenku says the obtaining situation is now complicating ongoing efforts to contain the spread of COVID-19 in an area where the threat of the disease remains high due to its proximity to the capital and the Namanga border point.
I want to confirm that already 30% of the county are going hungry, over 150,000 people. People who are dependent on daily casual employment, and this affects mostly the youth and the very old. So the relief would need to come now and now, because really people are hungry, people are suffering.
Meanwhile, an assistant chief from Kajiado Central is on the spot after he allegedly injured a middle-aged man in what is prescribed as a crime of passion. 22-year-old Moses Mwanja, who is nursing a broken arm and severe injuries in his private parts, says he was picked on an allegation of marrying a schoolgirl in what he says was a wider scheme to have the girl married off to another suitor.
Kunipeleka katikati ya msitu na kwenda kununua. Kama ningekuwa na makosa, kwa nini asingenipeleka kwa vyombo vya sheria? Nimekaa na huyu muda wote na wazazi wake walikuwa najua, na sio mtoto wa shule.
Elsewhere, residents of Nyandarua County are said to benefit from a 2 multi-million shilling water project courtesy of the national government in collaboration with the county government. Once complete, Rutara Mega Dam in Mirangini Sub-County and Karagoine Water Project in Daragwa Sub-County will supply over 20,000 families with clean water. Governor Francis Kimemia says the project will transform the fortune of farmers in the region.
I want to appreciate the national government led by President Uhuru Kenyatta. He promised us when he came here that the contractor would be on site. The contractor is already on site. So we are also going to Rashau Karagoine. The contractor is already on site. He's already completed the project and electrification is ongoing. The county has allocated money for electrification of water to the people. So we are working in
Finally, members of the Nakuru County Assembly have now ruled out foul play in the death of outspoken Naivasha MCA Karanja Mburu, who died in a road accident. This follows a post-mortem report which indicated the Lakeview MCA died from a massive internal bleeding following the Sunday morning accident along the Nairobi-Nakuru highway. Yusuf Farah, Channel 1 News.
And in the world of business, implementation of projects under the Big Four agenda are expected to slow down as the government redirects resources towards combating coronavirus outbreak. In an exclusive interview with Radio Taifa Wednesday, President Uhuru Kenyatta said while delivering the projects is still on course, the current crisis requires immediate attention on health and food security.
President Uhuru Kenyatta had outlined the food security, affordable housing, healthcare and manufacturing as part of the Big Four agenda to be achieved by 2022. However, the outbreak of the novel coronavirus has forced the government to shift focus to health and food security.
Sababu mimi naamini mambo haya ya kuhakikisha ya kwamba Wakenya wana uwezo wa kujisimamia mambo ya afya, mambo ya chakula, right?
In an exclusive interview with KBC radio stations, President Uhuru Kenyatta revealed that some projects would be shelved to allow focus on the healthcare system and supporting the food value chain.
Na ile Big Four agenda yetu, hiyo bado itaendelea kuwa msimamo wangu na mwelekezo wangu kama rais wa hii jamhuri kwa muda ambapo niko nao. Na nitaendelea. Hii ni issue ambaye hakuna mmoja wetu angetarajia. So lazima tupambane naye, lakini bado tunaelekea na bado tutaendelea na ile agenda yetu ya kuhakikisha ya kwamba zile agenda zetu 4 kubwa za taifa, Mwenyezi Mungu akitujalia na tufanye kazi ile ambayo tunafanya, tutaweza bado kuzitimiza.
This move is in line with the latest supplementary budget, where at least 4.7 billion shillings set aside for housing fund has been dropped. This is expected to slow construction of the planned 500,000 units. Further, national rollout of the universal health coverage has been affected by cuts amounting to 9.4 billion shillings, with 500 million shillings allocated to pilot counties in Kisumu, Isiolo, Machakos and Nyeri counties being slashed. According to Treasury, the monies will be used to hire more frontline workers and purchase of equipment for use in COVID-19 emergency response, with emphasis on ventilators and personal protective equipment for health workers.
Kuna kaunti zetu zingine ambazo ziko na nafasi ama mahospitali na equipment za mahospitali kushinda hata nchi zingine. Kaunti moja, si mimi sisemi nchi ya Kenya, kaunti moja. Ya? Na hii ndio ukweli. Hatujafika pahali ambapo tunataka, lakini kwa ukweli we have made major strides.
President Uhuru Kenyatta lauded individual counties that had made effort to stem the spread of COVID-19 and urged other county governments to scale up efforts, especially in the health docket. Going forward, among other shelved projects is the National Housing Development Fund and the Nairobi Commuter Railway project that have been stopped indefinitely. Regina Manyara Gitao reporting for Channel 1 Business.
Now, on a separate matter, lack of accurate data is slowing disbursement of cash to vulnerable groups following High Court restriction on use of Huduma number data in January this year. ICT Principal Secretary Jerome Ochieng says so far the government has paid out 170 million shillings under the cash transfer program. Ochieng says the stipend targets 1 million households whose economic situation has been worsened by the coronavirus pandemic.
Mid last year, the government rolled out a multi-billion shillings project to digitally capture the data of all Kenyans in the country and in the diaspora. The one-month exercise helped collect personal information for millions of Kenyans. According to the government, the collected data was to help efficient delivery of public services, harmonize the law on registration of persons, and facilitate registration of births as well as deaths. However, the High Court stopped the use of the data following a suit by a group of civil societies.
Some Kenyans went to court about it, and actually the court pronounced itself that really we cannot go into any other stages of implementation of Huduma number until the matter is determined. So, and we were actually not even supposed to use the data. The only thing we were asked to do is to collect the data and wait for the decision of the court. So this has put us in a very precarious situation in the sense that we do not want to defy the court order.
Speaking to Channel 1, ICT Principal Secretary Jerome Ochieng says the High Court decision has impacted negatively efforts to map out needy Kenyans.
If we really had a platform whereby we are able to authenticate the person with the documentation and with the details that they have, then we will be very sure that actually we know whom we are dealing with in person and we actually have correct data. Then data analysis based on that becomes very easy in terms of distribution, in terms of location and things like that. All those will have been the advantages would have accrued from the use of the Huduma number.
Jerome says so far they have distributed 166 million shillings to Kenyans in the counties of Kilifi, Nairobi, Mombasa and Kwale who are facing economic hardships due to the coronavirus pandemic.
It would have been wonderful if we were able to access this data and use this data to manage the COVID-19. It would have been very, very good. But again, that is where we find ourselves as a country. We are obeying the court order and we will wait for the decision of the court for us to move to the next steps.
Last month, President Uhuru Kenyatta announced a 10 billion shillings package to be disbursed to the vulnerable people in the 4 counties. The government has also allocated 9 billion shillings to the Inua Jamii program that targets the orphans, elderly and other vulnerable groups in the country. O'Brien Kemen for Channel 1 News Hour.
Now, Kisii County government is proposing to suspend penalties on late payment of single business permits for the next 3 months on the account of coronavirus pandemic that continues to devastate small businesses. Now, Governor James Ongwae says this is among other tax relief measures proposed which, if passed, will help cushion county residents and struggling enterprises.
In the first week of April, Kisii County was among counties reporting COVID-19 cases with 1 positive case. In addition to fumigating towns, the county government plans to introduce a raft of tax measures to mitigate on the domino effect of coronavirus spread that has so far claimed 175,000 lives globally.
To caution the traders against the hard economic times due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the county government waives these penalties for a period of 3 months, effective actually from 1st April or for the entire period from March up to June.
Proposed is a 3-month suspension of penalties for late payment on single business permits, foodstuff, daily market dues and public transport monthly payment of stickers. According to Kisii County Governor James Ongwae, 5% charged on late payment on single business permits has been waived effective April 5th to June.
The county government has suspended cess payment in respect of foodstuffs including matoke bananas, cereals, vegetables and fruits for a period of 3 months effective 1st April 2020.
Further, the county plans to suspend monthly levies charged on public transport providers to support the transport sector that is experiencing a slump owed to movement restrictions and curfew. Daily market dues levied on vegetable vendors in some open-air markets will be suspended, while operations along the food supply chain will not attract cess.
All this, Your Excellency, I'm sure since the House has come back, we are going to make sure we pass them with a very, very quickly, just as you saw the National Assembly did the other day, matters dealing with the pay-as-you-earn and others.
According to Kisii County Assembly Speaker David Kombo, the House is scheduled to meet this week and pass the proposals. Regina Manyara Gitao reporting for Channel 1 Business.
And in the sports world, the Dutch Football Association intends not to continue the Premier League after the national government extended a ban on major events until 1st September because of coronavirus. Ajax and AZ Alkmaar are leading the Dutch top flight level on points after 26 games, with Ajax ahead on goal difference.
The Dutch Football Association will not continue the football season after the national government extended a ban on major events until 1st September because of coronavirus, with Ajax and Alkmaar leading the Dutch top flight level on points after 26 games, but Ajax are ahead on goal difference. The Dutch football governing body said in a statement it intends not to continue playing the 2019-2020 competition, but will consult